welcome back to More Than Mail. My name is Scott Fisher. I'm coming at you from House of Faith in Hudson, Florida. It's good to have you all here. Tonight we're going to talk about receiving God's peace. And I'm going to start out with a couple of scriptures. The first one is Psalm 4:8, and this is from the Passion Translation. And it reads, "Now because of you, Lord, I will lie down in peace, and sleep comes at once, for no matter what happens, I will live unafraid." And the next one is from the book of John. It's chapter 14, verse 27. And Jesus is saying, "I leave the gift of peace with you, my peace. Not the kind of fragile peace given by the world, but my perfect peace. Do not yield to fear or be troubled in your hearts. Instead, be courageous." Now I got a couple of definitions of peace. One is freedom from disturbance, tranquility. The other is a state or period in which there is no war or war has ended. And for most of my life, I only thought about peace according to the second definition. Countries were either at war or it was peacetime. I joined the Army in 1987, and at that time, it was peacetime. By the time I left the Army in 1991, we were at war in the Gulf. So that was very black and white for me, and I understood it. You were either at war or you were at peace. And that was the kind of peace, that's the only kind of peace I ever really considered. But peace in my heart, soul, and spirit was something that I never would have imagined would ever belong to me. I fed on chaos. I lived in constant fear all the time. But the peace that I have now is, like everything else, a gift from God. And it's one of the 7 fruits of the Spirit. It's actually the third portion of the fruit of the Spirit listed in Galatians 5:22 through 23. Every human heart yearns for it, but I never knew what it meant. I really honestly never considered that I might be able to experience it. But what I found from those experiences, from that 50 years of running and gunning, as well as just, kind of watching other people and the people that I knew, is many of us thrive on chaos. When everything's upside down and going crazy and everything, that's when we feel alive. That's when we feel the most comfortable. And the best example that I can think of is driving. And I have to be honest, the way that people drive is like a pet peeve to me. And I've repented and I'm working on it. I swear I'm working on it. But the reason that it bothers me is usually things that bother me a lot bother me because it's something that I've done or something that I do. So it's like a mirror kind of thing. But anyway, so driving. So do you leave for work every morning? You go out on the road and weave your way through traffic, cutting people off and cursing and yelling and telling everybody they're number one, and acting like everything's all everybody else's fault and you're the only virtuous one? Or the combat driving, the using your vehicle as a weapon, just trying to take over the road, trying to intimidate everybody. That is something that I sadly have done. That's the way that I used to approach it. Part of that was that I was powerless everywhere else. But when I got behind the wheel of the vehicle, not only did I have power, I had something in my hands that I could control, but I was also anonymous for the most part. And so I could take out my frustrations and I could, I could just attack everybody else, and felt like they would never know who I was. But the only thing was, it never brought me peace. It also never got me there any earlier. And so what I learned to do is I learned to get up earlier, leave earlier. Now I drive to work and I got plenty of time. I mean, something really bad would have to happen as early as I leave for me to be late for work. And then the other thing is that over the years, I've earned a little leeway. So if I am a little bit late, my boss isn't going to worry about it. And But see, all this comes from just settling in my heart. I mean, I'm that guy that you hate that will stop and let somebody pull into traffic out of the shopping center, or I'm the guy that will slow down so somebody else can merge. I'm that guy. I'm that guy. So if I'm stepping on your toes, I'm real sorry, but you'll be all right. And also, I wanted to point out that I use my turn signals. And for those of you that don't know, there's a little stick on the left side of the steering column. And when you press it down, it makes a left turn signal. When you press it up, it makes a right turn signal. And then that way people know what you're doing so they don't hit you, or so you don't hit them. And it's really effective. It's really good. Y'all should try it. I heard that like on the newer trucks and stuff, it's standard now, that they're putting them in all of them. So that'll make you guys real happy. Can you tell I got kind of a sore spot about the driving thing? All right, so like I said, I've been the first guy. I never got there any faster. I always blamed everybody else, from the other drivers to the maintenance crews to the governor of the state to the roads. I was in constant fear of losing my job or getting in trouble. I always carried with me a list of lies and excuses. And when you live like that, and this is coming from the heart and from experience, when I know that I'm wrong and I'm ready with an excuse, I'm ready with a lie, there is absolutely no rest in that, because I have to keep track of what I said to who. And not having to do that is a very, very beautiful thing. I'm telling you. So if I'm not hiding anything and I'm not lying, if I just call my boss up and say, hey, I left late, I'm gonna be, half an hour late or whatever, I don't have to keep track of stuff. I don't have to try to remember what I said. And that gives me peace. The thing about that too is that when I am fighting all day and I'm living in that chaos and I've got all the craziness going on, by the time I get home, I got nothing left for my family. So that's another thing, and I'm learning this. But the constant pushing and the shoving and the fighting against circumstances, I was always angry. And I see people out on the roads, I see people at work, I see there's a guy in the building that I work at that is constantly yelling into his telephone, whether he's in the bathroom or he's outside or he's in the lobby or what. He's screaming at people all the time, and I can't help it. He's a young guy. I can't help but think, how does somebody that young get so angry? And that's when, it reminds me to just stop and thank God for the peace that I have, because I didn't deserve it. I didn't earn this peace. It was a gift given to me, and I'm telling you right now, it's better. The peace is a whole lot better than the anger is. So what I've learned, and one of the hardest things for me, and one of the probably the most important thing, not only in my walk with God, but also in recovery from alcoholism, is letting go. And it's really hard to do that. We need to, it's kind of a dichotomy. We need to control things, but we also need the chaos. And that's kind of a lose-lose if you think about it. But now I can just let it go, and I can leave it up to God. Anything that's bothering me, I can just turn it over. And like I said, now I leave him plenty of time to get to school or to work or to church, wherever I'm going. And I'm usually early, so I have a little extra time to spend with Holy Spirit before I go in and do whatever it is I'm gonna do. So back to the gift of peace. In recovery from alcoholism, we also called it serenity. And that was a word that I think I may, other than, I don't know if you guys remember the TV series, but I can't even remember the name of it now, but it was a space, people flying in a ship in space, and the ship that they flew was Serenity. It's fire or something. Anyway, but it was great and I loved it. But I think that was the first time that I had really heard the word serenity until I started going to meetings in recovery from alcoholism, and they talked about serenity all the time, and I didn't understand it. I didn't. I kind of felt like that was for other people who had earned it. But now I have serenity, and what it is it's a calmness in my spirit. It's no matter what mistakes I make, or if things go my way or not, or no matter what happens, I'm just going to learn from it. It's not a win or lose kind of thing. It's just growing. And every time things don't happen the way that I want them to, or every time I mess up or I fall short, I'm learning something. And as long as I'm moving forward, I'm on that walk. I'm on that path that God wants me to be on. And the ultimate destination is getting closer to Him. That's the ultimate goal. It's just getting closer to Him. So one step forward, two steps back sometimes, as long as I'm moving, as long as that's the goal, as long as I'm headed that way, then I know I'm all right. And I'm no longer waiting for the bolt of lightning to hit me when I make a mistake or when I do something wrong, because I know that it's part of my journey. I know that everything that happens is just shaping me and sharpening me to do what God needs me to do. So it's not a pass or fail thing. It's not a he's a great believer and I'm a horrible believer. It's not about comparison. It's not about anything like that. So what I've learned to do is to accept things exactly as they are. And, like I said, I can either trust God and I can lay it at His feet, or I can try and figure it out on my own. And over time, it's become pretty obvious which way works and which way doesn't. So I'm a little hard-headed, and sometimes I forget these things. But eventually, that ends up being the answer, and it does work out. It always works out the way that it's supposed to. It always does. That's how He's got this whole thing set up for us. So now I know that I don't have to be perfect to be a child of God. Just like your children aren't perfect, just like my children aren't perfect, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to reach for Him, and we have to do everything we can to get closer to Him. And if that's by making mistakes, that's okay. So knowing that I don't have to qualify, that's something that even when I first started coming to church, I thought that I had to earn a seat. I thought that I had to be like the other church people. And thank God I don't, because I'm not. I'm me, and the more I'm like me, the less I'm like anybody else. And God created us all individually, very uniquely. We all have our own walk. It still blows my mind to think that all the billions and billions and billions of people God just loves individually, each one of us, and nurtures us and takes care of us. It blows my mind. So again, I mentioned comparisons. One thing I learned from a mentor of mine to write an I choose list, and I try to do that as I'm growing, as I'm learning. I try to do that to remind myself of what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to achieve. So I wrote a little I choose list for this. I choose to stop comparing myself to other people. We're all on our own personal, unique walk with the Lord, and I'm where I am because that's where I need to be at this moment in my development. I have to trust God. I choose to let go of things I can't control because anxiety and fear will steal my peace. I choose to continually remind myself to turn it over to God. And I always want to do it myself. I want to change it. I want to fix it. I want to complain about it. I just need to stop. I choose to stop doing those things. I choose to protect my peace and serenity at all costs. And one thing that came to me is that being right is never worth the loss of my peace. Never, ever. So of all the amazing and wonderful gifts that God has bestowed upon me in these last few years, peace is the gift that I treasure most. I guard it diligently. I refuse to let the enemy take it away from me. But to receive the gift of peace, I had to let go of the need to control everything, to control my own life. I had to let all that go. I had to surrender, and I had to give it up to God. So my question to you is, are you ready to do that? Are you willing to give up the fight? Stop fighting and striving and lying and cheating? Because the gift of peace is yours. All you have to do is let go of all the other stuff and accept it. So just ask. Believe me, it's worth it. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you again next time.